Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Nicolas Ochem, founder of Middle.dev. Middle.dev, for those who might not know, is the non-custodial staking solution for leading proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies like Tezos that helps its users stake their cryptocurrency while retaining full control of their keys. On today's stream, we'll be giving away a Tezos-branded Nano Ledger to one of our lucky viewers. If you'd like that lucky viewer to be you, keep an ear out for a keyword later on during the stream. And of course, if you have any questions for Nicola that you'd like me to get to, please add them in the chat at any time, and we'll answer as many as we can before we wrap up. Hi, Nicola. How are things in San Francisco?
Hi, things are good. Thank you very much for having me today.
My pleasure. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your professional background? How did you get started on your journey into the exciting world of blockchain technology?
Of course, yeah. I have a computer engineering background, and I did 10 years in telecommunications. I was working on big internet routers and data center routing. I moved to the US, and I did a small foray in another startup doing quantum computers. And ever since 2019, I've been playing on Tezos. And I started a baker and got a grant, and things went on. And all this time later, I'm still working on Tezos primarily and loving it.
And now here you are.
Yeah.
Today, you're the creator of several important tools here in the Tezos ecosystem and beyond, including Flashbake, Middle.dev, and your most visible project, Ghostnet. I do want to touch on each of those projects in the stream today, but first I was hoping you could talk a little bit about what attracted you to the Tezos ecosystem in the first place. Like, what was it about Tezos that piqued your interest initially?
Yeah, it was as a lot of people, the aspects which were very novel at the time, especially the proof of stake and on-chain governance. So I had gone to the Bitcoin meetup for a while, and also had a keen interest in Ethereum. But then I started paying a lot of attention to Tezos a few months after mainnet. So mainnet went live in June 2018, and it's really about the 1 year mark anniversary that I was really following a lot the news about Tezos, and decided to jump in. So the governance aspect was important, and also the fact that the team looked like a first-class blockchain development team, and they were really not afraid to do things differently. At this time, the EVM was already pretty established, and everyone was trying to follow along Ethereum. So I was really attracted by the ability of everyone on Tezos to think from first principles and question everything, especially some things which were well established in Ethereum and still are today.
Very cool. You had, as I mentioned earlier, you had a big hand in building Ghostnet here in the Tezos ecosystem. For those who might not come from a technical background, can you explain what exactly Ghostnet is and what its role is here in the Tezos ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. Ghostnet is a permanent or semi-permanent testnet for Tezos. So with the fact that Tezos has a new protocol every few months, every 4 months on average, comes with practical challenges. And one of the practical challenges was that back then in 2020, a new test network was restarting every time there was a new protocol upgrade. So there was CartageNet, DelphiNet, IDONet, and as people were developing their apps on Tezos, they had to deploy them on testnet first because you test before deploying in production. So Tezos and every other blockchain have these testnets, but these testnets had a limited lifespan. So Ghostnet was a proposal. Ghostnet was a result of a proposal that we should have a permanent testnet, but there were a lot of questions on how to build this permanent testnet. Especially, you have to manage the transitions between one protocol and the other. However, on mainnet, we do have governance, and people, of course, are very motivated to vote. People are not motivated to vote on testnets because it's less important. They may not do it in a timely fashion. So ever since the beginning of Tezos, there were attempts to have people vote on testnet and try to coordinate the community so it would upgrade in a timely fashion, but that just didn't work. So a key improvement in the protocol that made Ghostnet possible was the possibility to upgrade testnets in an authoritative fashion by designating a main called dictator. And this testnet dictator, of course, only works on testnets. So it is, if you will, a governance bypass. So a lot of the effort I was involved in was to develop this mechanism, and I had help from an anonymous developer who was active in Tezos during 2022 called GBFefe. Once that was done, we were able to take an existing test network, Ithacanet, and keep it alive. So Ithacanet was supposed to have a 5 months time span from January 22 to June 2022, but it is still alive today and known as Ghostnet. And as for the name, initially someone made a bit of noise on Twitter a long time ago that Tezos was a ghost chain, which of course is not true. And as a pun on this, we took this, and instead of calling it ghost chain, we called it Ghostnet, just to follow with the tradition of naming test networks after protocols. And because there is a Ghostnet, we still have the dedicated testnet to test protocols. Ghostnet upgrades to the mainnet protocol about 1 week before mainnet itself, which is good, but still too late. So it's important to test new protocols earlier. So we still have this per protocol testnets. Nerobinet is the one right now, and we also have more testnets, such as MondayNet and DailyNet, which are the bleeding edge test networks for the development teams. And this testnets platform is managed by the team at Oxhead Alpha, which is a US-based Tezos core development team, which I contribute to.
Very cool. So you recently presented a product called Flashbake at TezDev 2023 in Paris. What can you tell us about Flashbake and why you decided to make bringing it to life a priority?
Sure. So there is this concept of MEV, and if you follow the chatter on Ethereum Twitter, especially, it's all about MEV. MEV is essentially called maximum extractable value. In a blockchain, there are blocks. In the blocks, there are transactions, and the order of these transactions matter a great deal. And you do have native ordering of transactions, which is performed by, in Tezos, the baker. The baker takes the transaction from the mempools, orders them by decreasing order of fees, so the baker can make a little bit of fees, and fills the block up to the maximum, if the maximum is reached. And that's it, that's the block, but it's only one way of proceeding. The baker has a lot of discretion in the order in which transactions are included in the block. The protocol does not dictate that. It's a prerogative of the baker. Simply put, all bakers run the default Tezos software, and they do not influence that. But in Ethereum, we've seen a lot of people modify the software in order to attempt to change the order of transactions to the advantage of the baker. And then the realization came that since this phenomenon is happening, it might be nefarious and detrimental to the users, and therefore, on the other hand, since you cannot fight it, let's make it open and visible to all. That was called Flashbots. Flashbots is an initiative on the Ethereum ecosystem, which is at this point 3 years old, and Flashbake is the Tezos attempt of doing a similar thing. You could say that the Ethereum ecosystem is maybe a little bit overly focused on this. On Tezos, it's the opposite. There is not enough focus on this aspect of baking. Flashbake is an attempt to address that. Concretely, Flashbake is a mechanism for a user to send a transaction privately to the baker. As we know, in proof of stake, in Tezos, the order of bakers is determined 20 days in advance. So you know who's going to bake the next block. So why not send transactions to them, to this baker privately? Normally, transactions go to the mempool, so everyone can see what you're doing before it's in the block. If you don't want that, you can use Flashbake, and Flashbake provides two components. One is a relay. The relay acts just like a normal Tezos RPC endpoint. If you use a CLI or if you adapt, your browser will connect to this endpoint in the backend, and the transactions will be sent to the baker directly. And then another part is the baker endpoint itself. It receives transaction, and it runs alongside the baker itself. And as it receives transaction, it's going to optionally run some sort of auction. So if the user really wants their transaction to be included first, they can bid for it. They can bid for the first part of the block, and the winning of the bid will include will have its transaction included. That is good for the baker, because the baker may make more into fees and into earning this bid. The proceeds of the auction go to the baker. Good for the user because they benefit from increased privacy, and good for the ecosystem because as this phenomenon becomes more marked, we may want to amend the protocol to make sure it goes in the right direction. This is a key differentiator of Tezos, is like quick adaptation to new conditions thanks to our software upgrade every 4 months. As of today, we have few participants. Flashbake requires active baker participation because they have to advertise their endpoint. They have to run a little piece of software alongside the baker. As of today, we have a few bakers, like a dozen, and about 1 block an hour is a Flashbake block, which is good, but not enough. We want more bakers to join. So I invite all bakers, especially, but everyone interested, to go to flashbake.xyz and learn more about it.
Sounds good to me. We've had an audience question come through that I'm gonna bring up now. Valentina would like to know, what would be the point of having layer 2 governance when Tezos already has layer 1 governance built in?
So that's a Rollup question. I think we're going to talk about Rollups during this show, but let's take the opportunity to talk about it anyway. So yeah, layer 2 means Rollups, and the Rollups are a way for Tezos to scale because there is limited capacity in layer 1 blocks. So with a Rollup, you outsource execution to a different environment. And Tezos has a layer 1 governance, and layer 2 governance can be a thing, or you can decide to have a Rollup without governance. Why would you have a rollup with governance? Well, maybe you're not happy with the way the governance of the layer 1 works. Maybe the threshold is too high. Maybe the timelines are too slow, because it takes 4 months for any governance decision to be enacted on the layer 1. Or maybe you want a different kind of voting. You may want conviction voting. You may want a proof of authority, a multi-sig. So the good news is the rollups on Tezos are very generic. Rollup is just a method for you to run any piece of WASM WebAssembly code into Tezos. So you can write your rollup in any programming language, compile it to WASM, and then it will run on Tezos, provided that you respect some time and space constraints. So as part of your rollup, you can write any governance mechanism you like, and it will just run, and you have the guarantees of the Tezos layer 1 that it will run as advertised. Now, the first production-grade rollup, if I may say that we'll have on Tezos, is the EVM rollup, Ethereum Virtual Machine. This one, as far as I can tell from the recent announcements, will, in an initial phase, be upgraded following layer 1 governance. It's a huge amount of work to have a EVM-compatible rollup on Tezos, and something is going to be released soon. It doesn't mean that the work is over. The engineers will keep working on it, make it better. So in an initial step, of course, the upgrades of the EVM rollups that live on Tezos mainnet will follow the governance process. Concretely, as we upgrade the Tezos protocol, there will be a special code that tells every willing EVM rollup to upgrade. If you don't like it, you can fork. You can deploy your own EVM rollup, remove the governance code, and then this EVM rollup will be permissionless. Or you can replace it with a multi-sig. It's essentially up to the developer.
Okay. We've talked a fair bit about baking. I'm just wondering if we can clarify the term there a little bit. How is being a baker different than just having Tez and staking them to earn rewards?
Sure. Baking means you actively participate in the proof of stake consensus. So that means two things. You are a steward of the network. You are responsible for hosting a little piece of hardware, which can be at your home, which can be in your cloud. You can also use our baking service from Middle.dev, which is fully non-custodial. And as you do that, you will produce blocks once in a while. You will also attest for the validity of other people's blocks. And as a result, you get rewards distributed to you directly by the protocol. Whereas when you delegate to a baker, which means it's easier for you, but on the other hand, the baker gets their rewards, and they, in turn, send some of these rewards to you. So like delegating is like step 2. If you notice this Galaxy Brain meme, step 1 is to hold Tezos on an exchange. Step 2 is to take custody. Step 3 is to delegate it. And step 4, the ultimate Galaxy Brain, is to be a baker.
And once you get the Galaxy Brain, you're extracting maximum value, as you said earlier, right?
Yes, of course. If you are a baker, you have the ability to get some upside from Flashbake. If Flashbake becomes big one day, which I hope it will, then it means more value will accrue to the baker. But meanwhile, you earn protocol rewards, and you still earn transaction fees, of course.
Okay. You touched on Middle.dev a little bit as you were speaking just now. That's the non-custodial staking platform for liquid proof of stake crypto assets like Tez. Can you walk us through the role that tool plays in helping people become bakers here in the Tezos ecosystem?
Yeah, of course. We do offer a Tezos baking service for which heavily leverage the Ledger hardware wallet, which we love. So with Ledger, it's possible to do non-custodial baking. So essentially, we ship a small computer, a small Raspberry Pi that you host at home in your closet or somewhere safe. Plug your Ledger into it, and then we take care of the baking setup. So it's kind of intermediate, half decentralized solution for baking. So of course, Tezos network values decentralization, and if you have the technical means, you should bake by yourself. It's good for resiliency. If you do want to be a baker but don't have quite the technical chops that it takes, or don't have the time to follow up on the very fast protocol developments and always keep your software up to date, then you can use us, and then you will still benefit from the 100% of rewards afforded to you by the protocol. You can be a public baker as well and attract delegations. That's only one aspect of what Middle.dev does on Tezos. Another one, which is, I believe, just as important, if not more, is that we provide endpoint services, or RPC services, specifically for a variety of tools in the ecosystem. Simply put, we run nodes. And again, for the same reason, if you are able to run nodes by yourself, by all means do it. But sometimes it can be difficult to operate high-performing, reliable, scalable RPC infrastructure. So you can also outsource that to us. So you can focus on your dApp, and you don't have to worry about running Tezos nodes. So there are services, well-known services like this in Ethereum ecosystem, such as Infura, and we aspire to be to fulfill that role in Tezos, while of course making sure that the overall goals of the networks are respected. So we operate in various cloud providers. We have several points of presence in Europe and North America, and we do auto scale. So when there is a spike of activity in the platforms that we support, we can deploy more nodes, and then everything goes smoothly. We have happy customers. A prominent public customer of ours is Plenty Network. We love Plenty. I believe you had them on the show, and
We're having them on again soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, they're using Tezos endpoint services as a backend. RPC is what we offer. We also started recently offering archive RPC, which is if you want to do to query historical data on the chain, as well as an indexing service powered by the great team at TZKT.
Very cool. Suman would like to know, how many Tez do we need to bake to get started on this whole process that you're describing?
6,000 Tez is the minimum. At the current rate, it should be a little bit over $4,000. So definitely $4,000 to $5,000. So not a trivial amount, but yeah, it should enable you to get started. You have a lot of publicly available guides out there. A good one is OpenTezos. OpenTezos.com is a good starting point for anything you want to do on Tezos, including baking.
And with Middle.dev, it sounds like it's possible to get those Tez, start an agreement with you, you send the hardware, the Tez remains in the ledger, and the baking is all handled for you. Is that right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Very little maintenance. Just keep the ledger, keep the signer powered, and you will keep baking.
Okay. This is all fabulous stuff so far. I'm excited to dive a little bit deeper, but before we get into the nitty gritty here, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Yes.
Excellent. Just before we do that, I'll announce the keyword for the Tezos branded Nano Ledger that you can plug into your Middle.dev hardware, apparently, that we're giving away today. Today's keyword is !Flashbake. Enter the keyword !Flashbake in the live stream chat, and Nightbot will randomly select today's winner, who will announce before the end of the stream. Okay, now, Nicolas, it is lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Yes.
Beaches or mountains?
Mountains, definitely.
Pizza or sushi?
Pizza, because it can be vegetarian.
Movies or video games?
Movies, I just saw Oppenheimer yesterday. It was so good.
I hear good things. Is this real life or are we in a simulation?
We are in a simulation of a simulation of a simulation, etc.
Perfect. True or false? Money buys happiness.
Partially true.
Fair. Name one thing you absolutely want to do before you die.
I want to go to more countries.
Excellent. The last place you traveled was?
I went to Stehekin in Washington State. That was lovely.
Cool. In 5 words or less, how would your best friend describe you?
Opinionated and thorough.
Awesome. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
On a rainy day, I like to, I guess, code.
You'd be surprised how often we hear that answer. Excellent answers. That concludes the TezTalks lightning round, and we can get back into it. Now that we've talked about a few of the products you've been involved in launching here in the Tezos ecosystem, I was hoping you could help us learn a little bit about something we've been hearing a lot about lately. I know we talked about it a bit earlier on, but that thing is rollups. First off, can you explain what a rollup is in layman's terms?
Sure, yeah. So you've had legends on this show before. So I've been involved to some extent. I wouldn't pretend to have the best answers, but maybe I can provide. I can try at layman's.
I'm sure you know more than I do, so please.
So what's a rollup? Yeah, we already had a question about rollups, so I touched on that. It's a way to make Tezos scale, and it's been a lot of questions over the years on how to scale a blockchain, and the science has made progress, and various ecosystems have converged towards modularity. As I said, I come from a computer networking background. So in computer networking, you have several layers, layer 2, layer 3, and that's how you're able to get the internet. That's how you're able to talk today, and it just works. It's because there are layers. Well, the thinking is that it's the same for blockchains, that they have to be modular, and you have to separate things as much as you can while preserving the properties that you like. And almost everyone is doing that today. You have blockchains like Solana, Aptos, who say, no, we just need one layer with extremely powerful machines, like 1 terabyte of RAM in a bespoke data center. But everyone else, including Tezos and Ethereum, have decided that modularity is the way. So a rollup essentially tries to move some of the stuff that happens on your layer 1 out of the layer 1 and up into a different layer, while still having Tezos work the same way that it did as much as possible. In that case, we're talking about execution. So every time there is a block, things happen, operations are being submitted, and then you have to run all these operations, and that takes quite a bit of resources. And if you have a small home baker with a not very recent hardware or laptop, it might take too long to run this block. And since there is one block every 15 seconds, soon to be faster, then your small baker might struggle to catch up. So Rollup addresses that by moving the execution into a higher layer, and also allowing several of these higher layers to run at once. So now you can still bake with your little Raspberry Pi, but other activity can happen on beefier machines, like bigger servers, but there needs not be a lot of these servers. In fact, it's designed in such a way that if only one of these servers is honest, then you can trust the rollup, just like you trust any operation happening on the layer one. Does it make sense?
It does. That was actually the best explanation I've heard. So what kind of practical applications does that process actually have?
The practical operations are kind of the same than what you get on smart contracts, just more like instead of writing a smart contract in which you have a very high constraints, like you have to play code golf to make sure that you can do everything you want to do in a small amount of lines of code, taking a small amount of storage and computation, you can essentially be freed from these constraints and write in any programming language, such as Rust, JavaScript, Python, whatever you're comfortable with. You just add a few hooks to the state you want to keep on chain, and post these commitments. So essentially, it opens up usage of blockchain to a lot more potential developers that we have today. Smart contract developers are a very small crowd, even if you take all blockchains combined. But people who know Python, people who know Rust, these are a lot of people. So Rollups hopefully enable them to dip their toes in blockchain. So instead of increasing the ecosystem that we have, we try to onboard more people by adapting to the way they work. Now, there are a few constraints compared to just running a smart contract on layer one. You may have heard the word optimistic. So on Tezos, we have optimistic rollups, and there is a very strong research effort right now to change that. But optimistic rollups means that you by default trust whoever runs the computation. And then anyone else has an opportunity for a time period of 7 days to say, no, this was wrong, and submit a proof. And layer one will execute this proof and determine a winner. The loser is slashed. That's actually our killer feature compared to Ethereum, which doesn't have that. It's the enshrined fraud proofs that we have on Tezos. And the world has not realized yet that this is a killer feature, but it is. So that's though problematic because you need 7 days to move whichever assets you have on this rollup back to the layer one, because you need to wait for the refutation period, as we say, to be over. That's not necessarily a big problem. If you take the EVM rollup, which is an EVM compatible rollup that's currently on Ghostnet, it just works. You can transfer tokens with MetaMask, which is a popular extension for Ethereum. You can deploy a smart contract and run this smart contract. It's just if you have any assets on this EVM rollup. Today, the proposed asset is a CTES. Then you need to wait 7 days to move your CTES to layer one. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you were never planning to move it back to layer one. Maybe someone will make a bridge. Then we can bridge assets directly from Etherlink, which is the name of this Ethereum rollup on Tezos, announced last week. and this area or Arbitrum or whatever. So you may just choose to totally ignore the layer 1 and treat it as a good dedicated layer 2. In that case, you are fine. Now, if you have several rollups, you have the same problem. To transfer funds between one rollup to the other, you need to wait these 7 days. But that's about. I mean, there are solutions for that as well. We can go more into them if you want.
Well, I would like to, but we are starting to run short of time. There's a couple of other things I wanted to get to. As I mentioned, you attended and presented at TezDev 2023 in Paris. And understand that at that event, there was a presentation on the progress that's been made in the endeavor to hit the 1 million transactions per second benchmark. Can you tell us what you learned about the quest for 1 million TPS at TezDev and what part rollups play in increasing throughput to that level?
Yeah, sure. There was actually a demo of the 1 million TPS at TezDev. I believe the YouTube version will be out in the coming days. Essentially, it's representing all these transactions as a matrix, basically as a screen. You have a screen of 1000 by 1000 pixels. That's 1 million pixels. So if you want to update one of these pixels between red, blue, or green, that's a transaction, and that's how they made a stunning visual demonstration of the 1 million 1 million TPS demo. So you could see like a video, like a glitchy video, because it's not totally streamlined, but you can see most of the screen pixels updating in real time. So how is that done? Essentially, 1,000 rollups with 1,000 transactions per second each. That makes 1 million transactions, and that was running on MondayNet, which is one of the test networks I mentioned, which is an actual live condition. So that's the demonstration we had, that the million TPS is for real. You need to do it on 1,000 rollup, which might not be what we see in practice. That's why the other major announcement of TezDev 2023 was what's called UHT. UHT stands for Ultra High Throughput Rollup, and the details of that will probably come out in the next days. But it addresses the problem of siloing between rollups and the problem of moving funds between rollups. The key idea is like with some extra work, instead of having 1,000 rollups with 1,000 transactions each, we found that it's actually possible to have 1 million TPS in a single big rollup. And this rollup would run several runtimes at once. It would run the EVM, it would run Michelson, which is our native smart contract language. It would run whatever you want in just one rollup. So that's
Wow.
That's a next area of development for Tezos, and I couldn't be more excited about it.
So if we create 1,000 of those, can we hit 1 billion transactions per second?
Impossible. There is always a next problem after you reach some threshold, and who knows what the next ones will be.
Very cool. We've got a few more audience cues that have come through that I want to get to before we close off here. Ryan Harris would like to know, why does adaptive inflation affect small bakers?
Why? I mean, the answer is in the question. I would say I'll rephrase this question in: does adaptive inflation affect small bakers? Yes or no? We haven't touched on adaptive inflation. We only have a few minutes, but essentially there is something coming in the next protocol upgrade, which is optional, which will be subject to a dedicated vote, whether or not we want to change the issuance mechanism of Tezos to follow a curve instead of being just a constant number. It's been there since inception. It makes a lot of sense to me. There is a concern that it could cause centralization by discouraging small bakers. However, in my opinion, this concern has been addressed by the introduction of a new staking mechanism where small bakers can choose to put their funds at stake, meaning at risk, towards their baker. And that leverages existing relationships between the baker and their current delegates. They could just tell them, hey, if you want to earn more rewards, why don't you stake with me? It's like an extra commitment to the baker that instead of just doing a delegation, but you have no constraints, then you stake with your baker, and then your funds are frozen for a little while. And if your baker misbehave, you also get slashed in addition to the baker. So as you do that, you can earn more rewards, and I think that addresses the concern that co-staking, that adaptive issuance will lead to centralization.
All right. One more we'll get to here. Cold Wind Blows asks, Nicola, you've been around for a while. What makes you stick in the Tezos ecosystem?
Partially technical excellence, partially the friends I've met along the way. I really enjoy working with everyone.
We could go on and on, but we are coming to the end here, and I do need to announce the winner of the Tezos branded Nano Ledger we're giving away today. Today's winner is Cold Wind Blows, who just brought that question forward as well. Congratulations, Cold Wind Blows. To claim your prize, just email us at social@tezoscommons.org. We'll request a screenshot for verification that you're the account owner and get your shiny new Nano Ledger over to you just as quick as we can. For those who missed out today, remind you there are awesome giveaways to be found frequently here on the TezTalks live stream, so keep tuning in. I'd also like to mention that Nicolas here has offered 3 months of growth tier Middle.dev credits to anyone who reaches out to him and mentions that they tuned into this live stream. So please do make contact with him if you'd like to claim a prize. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you if they'd like to claim that?
Email hello@Middle.dev, and if you are in need for RPC or indexer endpoint service, we can indeed offer the growth tier, which allows you higher limits and more granularity in how you control your endpoints.
Perfect. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. Nicolas, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks building cool projects like Middle.dev and Flashbake here in the Tezos ecosystem and keeping Tezos at the forefront of the Web3 revolution. Is there anything else you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
Yeah, thank you very much, Stu, and thank you, Tezos Commons, for everything you do to the ecosystem.
Awesome. To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on the TezTalks live stream. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Nicolas Ochem, founder of Middle.dev. Now let's go get non-custodial.